Alright, so I've got the 5.3 out of the Envoy and on a stand sitting here, and I'm just going to go about the business of disassembling it so I can get all that stuff put in there. I got to pull that balancer off and then swap the cam, pull these heads off, do lifters, that kind of stuff, springs. So I'll go ahead and get the camera set up on a tripod and start pulling this thing apart. So I'm pulling this engine apart because it has DOD, and one of these DOD lifters for cylinder number 1 just failed. It's pretty common that they fail. This one was stuck in the down position, I guess. So the push rod was kind of bouncing around in there. So it was making a bit of a racket and had a misfire on cylinder number 1. You can see here I found that bent intake push rod. Check that out. It's not supposed to be like that. So you really don't need to pull the engine out to do this kind of job. The only reason I pulled the engine out of the Envoy is because I was looking underneath and I could tell that it needed a rear main seal. It was leaking oil from just about everywhere it could possibly leak oil from. So really I pulled the engine out to be able to do the rear main seal and reseal everything. If everything else was in good shape and it was just the DOD delete, you could do this right in the truck and not have to pull the engine out. But honestly, if you've pulled it down far enough to where you have the heads off of it, you're only an hour away, just bell housing bolts and torque converter bolts. You're like an hour away from pulling the motor out. So since it needed all these gaskets and everything, I just went ahead and pulled it out, put it on a stand, and that makes it a lot easier to work on and replace all these gaskets and everything like that. Alright, so I got one side disassembled. The head is off, lifters are out, got everything on my valve train organizer here. As you can see, that intake push rod on number 1 has seen better days. Got the old dog leg in it. So, looks like I'll be buying a set of push rods. Awesome. So I'll just continue on. I'm going to pull that other head off, look for any other kind of damage, and then get it ready. I can put that cam in, then I'll have to order a set of push rods. So, moving forward. So the cam that I'm running for this is a BTR Stage 2 truck cam. I got that in a kit with their springs and valve stem seals all together. So I'm running that, and then the Texas Speed DOD delete kit. And that came with a bunch of gaskets and things like that. I think head bolts came with that, lifters. So I'll leave a link to all that stuff down in the description. But I use the Texas Speed DOD delete kit, the BTR cam and spring kit, and then a set of Howard's Chromoly push rods from Summit, because I had that one bent push rod. And then other than that, just a bunch of miscellaneous engine gaskets and stuff like that that I mostly got from Amazon. I just bought everything to be able to reseal the entire engine. So here's where I'm at. The heads are off, as you can see down there. All of the valve train except for the camshaft is out. Got it over here. I didn't find any other surprises. That one bent push rod, but as far as the motor, I have the front cover and then the rear cover still on there. So I just need to pull off the cam sensor and the front cover and then that rear cover. And then once that's done, I'll be able to pull the timing set off and put the cam in. All right, so the last thing I need to do for disassembly here is just pull the oil pump and the timing set and cam out of the block. So I got it all right there. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on the old tripod here. And I'll go ahead and pull that oil pump and then the cam out. All right, I'm just taking a couple of the old small head bolts and just threading them into the cam to kind of give a little bit of a handle on the front of the cam. And now I'll just go ahead and slide that cam right out the front of the block. It's a little bit of a delicate process. You just got to kind of, work it. Work the lobes through, through and not try not to beat the bearings up. But as long as you take your time and are just real careful, they'll come out with no problem. And there we go. Alrighty, I think I am completely done as far as disassembly goes. I got the cam out. I still need to get that crank sprocket off, but I'll get that off. But everything else I got out. I just need to clean up all the mating surfaces. All right, so this is where I'm at now. I have all the mating surfaces on the block cleaned up, and then I started cleaning up this head over here, but Kenny's here for right now, so I'm gonna pass the camera over to him, and I'm gonna go ahead and lube this cam up and then slide it into the block so we can get started putting that back together. All right, so I sprayed the cam down with some brake cleaner and then wiped it down, and now I'm just going to take some of this Permatex assembly lube and just go over the top of the cam. Just get a decent amount on there, and then when I pick the cam up, I'm going to wipe that around and get it all over the whole cam. All right, so now I'll just go ahead and slowly slide this into the block. You just want to be careful not to not to beat these bearings up on the lobes as you move past the journals. All right, then I'm going to stop right there for just 1 second and grab a couple of the old head bolts, these small ones, and I'm going to thread these into the front of the cam just so that I have a little bit of a handhold to grab onto while I slide it the rest of the way in. And reach back here. It's nice on this engine, you can reach to the back of the cam. So I'll just reach right here behind the rear plate and pick up on the cam a little bit. And that'll help me get that front journal in. There we go. All right, so I have the cam in and the cam plate is on there. I torqued the cam plate bolts down back there. And then I just have the cam sprocket bolts in just finger tight right now. And then this is the new crank sprocket for the new timing set. These have to get like pressed on. So I have a 36 millimeter socket and it fits right over the snout of the crank perfectly. You can see back there, it's not very much distance that has to be knocked on. So I'll just slide this right over the crank like that, and then just take a hammer and knock that section of the timing set right onto the crank snout there. All right, there we go. The crank sprocket is all the way down on the snout of the crank, right where it's supposed to be. So next I'll go ahead and I'll pull this cam sprocket back off. I need to put the timing chain tensioner in there, and then I can set the timing, put the timing chain on, and then I'll be ready to put the front cover on. That section will be done. All right, just a quick update on where I'm at. I got the front cover on, and both sides I lined them up with a straight edge. So the front cover is nice and flush with the block, and then same with the rear cover. I have it on, and I lined up the corners on this one as well. So when I go to put the pan back on, which is down there, super dirty still. But when I go to put that back on, everything should be good. It should sit on there nice and flush. Those are all torqued down, and then I have the new lifters over here soaking in some oil. So I'll let those soak overnight. The last thing that I need to do as far as like disassembly is go ahead and pull the valves out of this head so I can swap the springs. I already have this head valves out, and they're on the organizer over here. So once I get the valves out of this head over here, then tomorrow I'll be able to clean up the oil pan, clean up these heads the rest of the way, and then I'll be ready for final assembly. The only thing that I'll be waiting on is a set of push rods from Summit. So those should be here in a couple of days, and I'll be able to throw everything back together. All right, just to check in with where I'm at here, I have this cylinder head like halfway assembled, new valve stem seals, new BTR springs. So when I get that one done, I'll switch over to this one, get the valves in there and get the springs on and everything. And then I've got my lifter soaking right there, and my new lifter trays here. So once I have these heads assembled, I'll throw the lifters in the block and I can put the heads on. So it's coming along, finally. All right, I need to make a little adjustment there. So inside the combustion chambers underneath, I just have some shop towels under there to keep the valves from falling down. But as you can see, the shop towel is missing this last exhaust valve here. So I'm just gonna pick it up. There's the shop towel, and I'll just set that right underneath the exhaust valve and then set the head back down. And there we go. That'll keep the valve from pushing down, and that way I'll be able to get the spring on. So there's one of them in there, and there's the second one. Easy peasy. So there we go. That head is all assembled, and then the other head is right down there, and it has the springs and new valve stem seals on it as well. So those are both ready to go. Now all I need to do is pull the lifters out of the oil right over there, put them into the lifter trays, and drop them into the block here. And then once they're in, I can pull the head gaskets out of the old gasket box over there and bolt the heads on. Be ready to go back in the truck. All right, cool, there we go. Lifters are installed, heads are assembled. We're looking good. So I just need to just give this all a once over. I'll peek down in there as best I can and see, you know, to make sure that the lifters all look like they're contacting the cam lobe, cam lobes in the proper way. I'll torque these on both sides, and then we'll be ready to put the heads on. So one step closer. All right, we are ready to get the heads back on this thing, finally. So I got the everything prepped here. The lifter trays are torqued. The surface here is clean and dry. There's no oil on it. The surface of the head, same situation. And then I have my GM head gaskets right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw the heads on and do the first stage of torque on all of them. Torque them to 22 foot-pounds, and then let it sit. And it's getting late, so once that's done, I'll call it a night, and then tomorrow I'll come by and I'll do the rest of the torque. All right, so as far as the head bolts, I know there's some like debate online sometimes about, do you oil them, do you not oil them? This is just what I've always done. I leave the threads of the bolts dry and put oil on the heads of the bolts, so it it helps lubricate the clamping surface of the bolt. So I printed out the torque sequence for the heads. I just printed this off of alldata.diy.com. if you don't have all data, then get all data DIY. It's like you have to pay per car, but you know, if you're only working on your own stuff, it's like 15 or 20 bucks a year, and you get full access to all data for that vehicle. I highly recommend it. Then you don't have to, you know, you don't have to like look on the internet and speculate as to whether or not what you're reading is correct. So all that is pretty good. So there's the torque sequence for the heads. I'm just going to follow that and torque this head down to 22 foot-pounds, and then I'll rotate the motor over and do the same thing for the other head, and then I'll let them sit. All right, it's next day out here in the shop. I need to come back and do the final torque on the big head bolts on each side. And then I'll be ready to drop in push rods and rockers. And I need to clean the valve covers up a little bit and then put in new O-rings for the bolts and new seals for the valve covers. And then it'll be ready. Oh, I gotta put the damper back on too. I have a new crank bolt over here in the parts box. So I'll pull that old crank bolt out, get the installer out and put the damper back on, and then and put the cam sensor back in, and then for sure it'll be ready. So for the next pass in the torque sequence for the heads, it goes to 90 degrees. So unfortunately I don't have a real fancy torque wrench that tells you degrees. So I'll just get out my torque angle gauge here and set it up for each bolt and just go to 90. And then on the third pass, an additional 70 degrees. And then I'll also take this 10 millimeter and check the small bolts and make sure they're all at 22. All right, so this is the setup for the torque angle gauge. You see I got the gauge there. I'll just set this to 0. And then it's right on 0. And then just a little bar coming down here to lock onto the head. So when I start tightening this, it'll tell me, you know, how far I've gone. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Heads are torqued to their final torque setting. The valley cover is torqued. The front cover is torqued. I still have to torque the rear cover, but I'm going to do that when it's on the hoist, and then I'll put the flex plate on and torque that. It just makes it a lot easier when it's on the hoist. So the next thing that I need to do is just spray the push rods down with brake cleaner, make sure they're clean, drop them in the holes, and put the rockers on. And we'll be good to go. All right, so with the heads torqued down all the way, now I just need to install the new push rods and put the rockers back on. Let me get some assembly lube, and then I'll just get the rockers out and just wipe them down. I'll probably shoot a little brake clean through the oil passage just to make sure there's no debris in there or anything like that. And then I'll spray these down with a little brake clean, put some assembly lube on, and get the rockers on there and torqued. And that'll pretty much be the last thing. I mean, I still have to put the damper on. I need to clean these up the rest of the way and put the seals on and everything and put those on the top. But other than that, that's about it. And just the rear cover and flex plate down there in the corner. So almost done.
Right here you can see the new Valley cover that I'm using. This came with the Texas Speed kit, and this replaces the Vlom, or the oil manifold that went there for the DOD. This just bolts right in place. I think this is an LS2 style, and it just has provision for the oil pressure sensor, and then it's just smooth. There's no oil passage lines or no provision for the DOD sensor. So this just goes right in place, and then the plug that plugged into the original Vlom right there, you just leave that hanging in back of the manifold.
All right, so there we go. The rockers are on and torqued. New push rods. Everything is looking great. I just need to clean the valve covers up, and I can put those on. And I need to throw this coolant plug into the passenger side cylinder head in the back. So I've cleaned that up on the wire wheel, so it doesn't have any goop in the threads or anything like that. And then I'm just going to get some of this pipe thread sealant and put a little dab on there, and then put it into the cylinder head and torque it so it'll seal up nicely. And then on the other head, where this one goes, but on the other head is where the coolant temp sensor goes, right there, which I need to get a new one of. So I'll get a new coolant temp sensor and put it in that spot. I've got the valve covers out all cleaned up, or as clean as I'm going to clean them. And new O-rings for the bolts are installed. And then I'm just going to grab the valve cover seals out of my gasket kit there. So I'm going to install those, and then I can torque those down onto the engine, and this thing will be done. I did get the damper on. I haven't done the final torque on the bolt. I'll probably do that in the car because it'll be a little easier to hold it. So just about done finally. All right, ready to go back in. That's still the old bolt in the damper. So you're supposed to use that one to seat the damper all the way. So once it's back in the truck, I'll use that bolt to seat the damper. Then I'll pull that one out. I'll pull that bolt out and replace it with this new bolt and torque it to spec. But other than that, it's ready to go back in the truck. I need to lift it up and put the flex plate on it. My stand blocks my access, so I need to get the flex plate on it and torqued once it's on the hoist. But be putting it in the Envoy here in the next day or so. All right, I'm back out here in the shop. I'm gonna roll this thing out to the side drive and see if I can get it set down in the Envoy real quick. So I just need to take the torque wrench with me and torque this rear cover on and throw that flex plate on. So see if I can't get this thing set down in the truck by myself. All right, I got the motor sitting back down in the Envoy. I just need to crawl underneath real quick and just throw a couple of bell housing bolts in to secure the transmission to the motor. And then I can pull the jack out and I can pull the hoist off. And then, you know, just like Legos now, I'll just start putting things back together where they go. All right, so that's about it as far as physically deleting DOD. The other stuff is just in the software, like HP tuners. You just need to go in and turn it off. It's just checking a box. And so I had some check engine lights for the DOD solenoids until I did that. And then once I turned it off in HP tuners, it was good to go. So I don't have any check engine lights or anything like that. I gave it a little timing to get it to idle, and that's where it sits right now. So in the next video, you're going to see the install of the Transgo shift kit for the 4L60E. So I installed that, got everything going. So you'll see the first drive and that kind of stuff in the next couple of videos. And then after that, I'll have some suspension work to do on it before it's really ready to go. But after that, it should be good to go. So I'll be driving it down the road. It'll be my daily. So I appreciate you guys checking out the Powershift Garage. If you like this kind of stuff, please like, subscribe, comment. All of that stuff helps. So until next time, see you later.